guys, so here we're going to talk about Hairspray, 1988's best John Waters movie.
It ain't right. Dancing to that colored music.
Have you seen this originally?
I probably saw it at some point. Let me be upfront about this. I almost barely didn't give this movie a chance.
Okay, why is that?
I just let it play, and like I kind of think I hate John Waters.
Really?
I really I went on his IMDb and just checked, and I'm like, right, these are all the movies that I remember. I think that I enjoyed Serial Mom.
Serial Mom, Pink
probably,
Flamingos, Crybaby is probably my favorite one.
I'm not even sure if I saw those. I know
one day I'll make you watch Crybaby.
Like a lot of other people liked a lot of those movies. I've seen parts of them, and I've heard things about them, and I've seen stuff. I've seen some of like the later ones, I think, or whatever. But like, I just really
like a Dirty Shame, maybe with Knoxville.
I have no idea. But I really hate the whole like, oh, maybe the status quo is like not so good after all, huh? Like, I just, it like grates on me. It like bothers me. This whole concept of like, oh, the adults are like, oh, and like the kids are like, we're cool. And like, I'm like, oh my God, guys, please. Like, I'm like, I get it. Oh my God. Like, cause like, I guess like, and I'm not even that weird, but just like I'm not a normal person. I'm not like, oh, we should go to the bank and like eat with several forks. Like, I'm not like one of those like, and like, I don't know any people like that. So like, there's no more thing to like rebel against. Like, who are you talking to? My parents weren't like that. No one was like that. Only John Waters' parents were like that, apparently. And he has to make all these movies about how like, oh my God, we just eat shit and do poetry and it's this great thing. And I'm like, I don't know. You just do whatever you want anyway. I didn't need a movie to tell me that. What do you think?
I like.
like he's one of my favorites. I love him.
No, he's not one of my favorites. I've not seen everything he's done. I think he's a creepy, like, interesting person.
He seems like a really cool dude. I'm not saying that.
So like, but for like 1988, we have like Big just came out, Twins, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like
this is definitely like an older movie.
That's what I'm saying. So to put it into perspective of the things that are coming out, I like the color choices of this movie. I think that it's cool. So he features a young Ricky Lake, who you may know from like the Ricky Lake show.
I remember as a kid seeing the Ricky Lake show and having people say, "Oh, she used to be heavy." Or something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Weird. So, like... How do you know this person?
The structure of this movie is you have this this girl and, her mother and father. Her mother and father... The father is Jerry Stiller. That's Ben Stiller's dad.
Oh, yeah.
Her mom is Divine. Who you've known from other John Waters movies. Divine also ends up playing the owner of the network or whatever.
And that was great. Seeing Divine...
as a guy and a girl.
Yeah, like not in drag, as an awesome... other like super stereotypical like over the top role, sort of like
So like Ricky Lake like watches this show on TV. It's like this dance show, and she's like, I'm good. I could be on this show, and it's her rise to take over like the show. What the normal person can do, a fight for black rights, and like the takedown of your standard rich white family, who their family is played by what's her name?
Sonny,
Debbie,
Bono, Deborah Harry, and Vitamin C are the waspiest, most power white
it's such
couple
a crazy thing though, because like this is Vitamin C before she's famous, obviously. Debbie Harry already from Blondie. Sonny Bono of Sonny and Cher, who is super famous.
Sonny Bono, who's fucking Sonny Bono.
This crazy, real like white bread family of like privilege, and then you have like this joke store owner
and like their names. I forget Deborah Harry's family's name, the Van somethings or whatever, right?
Yeah, like Van Cumberbunds or something.
Yeah, and then like Ricky Lake's fan was like the Turnblads. Yeah, this fucking like even their name is this like fat ugly mess of like a name or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So that like I like that whole thing, and like. Speaking of a movie where you look at everyone, there's somebody. Like this movie is like you're like, oh, crazy.
I got fixated on Josh Charles.
Oh, Josh Charles, he's from the Dead Poets
Society.
He's
from everything, I know. And I was like, who are you? Oh my God, I had to.
And he has a very bit part in this movie.
But he's in like the first scene though, because it's all the kids on like the show doing dances back and forth.
His face has been the same for 40
years. I know
that
he still looks exactly he still looked exactly the same 20 years later when I was seeing him still and stuff. Yeah, he's one of those.
He was in some TV show about like late night news or something, or like and he was good.
No, like something about him. I'm like, I know you and I like you. Who are you? But yeah, the movie's riddled with people. There's so many people. So many
her
things.
best friend in the show is this Penny girl,
Yeah.
and I was like, what else is she in? Because like she's interesting. Literally nothing.
It's actually
this is the only thing she's ever done.
We did the same thing. So I went on IMDb and I'm like verifying and just checking people off, and I'm like, oh, his name is Josh Charles, because I never knew that guy's name before, for example. And then when I got to her, I'm like, oh, she must be something. And then she did this movie, and then John Waters sent her back to wherever she was from.
Yeah, it's strange.
She's never done anything else.
I thought that she was decent in this.
She was fine.
I liked her character. I thought that like just the sucking on the fireball thing and just put it back. I was like, that's a unique trait that I think was fun.
No, she was
nothing else.
projecting a certain whatever.
Yeah.
It was cool. I liked it.
Then the one that played, what was her, Motormouth, whatever.
Yeah.
She's so familiar to me,
Okay.
and I go to her IMDb and I'm like, why do I know you? And I couldn't find what the thing was that like what the trigger. But I'm like I definitely have seen her in something.
I don't know if I have.
Couldn't place it though. But maybe it was just a memory from this movie as a child.
I didn't go too deep to get too many things from people, but yeah, was this something that you watched a lot as a kid?
I've seen it once on network TV, and I just remembered it. And
it's such a different thing. It's not like other things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't know how much difference it would have been from like Channel 9 to like the DVD, if I like things were cut and censored or not. But it was
Shouldn't
interesting.
be too bad in this one.
No, I remembered like pretty much only them in like when they were in the bad neighborhood walking around and running into like the beatnik's house and stuff. I
such a weird scene.
I didn't really remember this movie or what it was. I'm like, I know there's like a person and then there's dancing and there's an unpopular girl, but that was kind of it. And then I had seen the remake with John Travolta in like 2006 or whatever year that came out.
I have not, but yeah, Christopher Walken in that, I think, too. Right? A lot of people.
He's the dad, and then he is the mom.
It's got potential.
Yeah. But no, like, it was an okay movie. I did not, like, we've suffered through a lot of shit recently.
Oh, yeah.
This was not a suffer-through movie for me.
No, absolutely not.
It had some funny bits. The only things I really didn't like was toward the end, the playing up too much of, like, the roach angle and, like, the dress. And I was like,
How does she have a dress that already is covered in roaches? The other girl just said, made up that dance.
Well, she said you have roaches in your hair earlier, and I thought this was her, like, I went with my, heavy-set dressmaker, and this was my new line.
They were both prepared with callbacks to having roaches in their hair or whatever.
Seemingly.
Yeah, I liked her, constantly dragging Ricky Lake for different things or whatever.
Had Ricky won though, legitimately, she couldn't have gotten in that little car anyway. So that wouldn't have been that would have been very embarrassing.
That's a plot hole.
Yeah,
that's a vicious plot hole.
Well, I think when they would have made all these things, it was at a time when there would have only been slim women. Like she was breaking the mold, and she would have broke the mold of that car. Pun.
Broken several of the molds. They would have had to have molded a new one. Yeah, the Hefty Hideaway, I thought was a good name.
Yeah, and how they make her eat a bonbon like when she gets to the end of the road. I'm like, okay, that's funny.
No, and like that salesman guy, like he has like treats at his dress shop.
Yeah,
he's like, eat up, ladies, eclair. What do you want?
Well, because
don't forget,
he's out of business if they lose weight.
It's amazing, yeah, and that's and that's the kind of stuff like that, because like I like Edward Scissorhands and stuff like that, and that has the same vibe of like this.
Yeah,
but that like is more like surreal, I think, or something like that. I think my problem with the little John Waters that I've seen is that it's too like there's just people.
Do you know what he looks like?
Weird or whatever. Yeah.
So you saw his cameo?
Yeah. He always has a cameo, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things. Yeah.
He plays the anti.
I love that
integration doctor with his little like spinning wheel.
His like hypnosis wheel and his cattle prod and all that stuff. No, that was awesome. I loved Penny being like into the black dude and all that stuff.
Yeah.
She says he's gorgeous or whatever.
His name was Seaweed, right?
His name was Seaweed, which took me a second where I'm like, wait a minute.
I kept thinking I must be hearing it wrong. It must be Seaweed.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up and I'm like, it's Seaweed.
It's at the end they do this awesome roll through everyone where they show them like smiling for a second and they have their names and all that stuff.
The girl that played the beatnik, I forget what her name is now, but like because it hung on her, I'm like, well, she must be somebody.
They're both famous.
And she was like the most famous bad actress of the decade or something.
Ooh.
Like she like just missed the Razzie to like Madonna or something. Like she was in Santa vs. the Martians. Like everything she did was, I guess, historically horrible movies.
She got the Lifetime Achievement Award for like bad movies.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Because the dude's Rick Ocasek, right? The musician guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, and I loved him painting and
she later found success as a musician.
Okay. So
she's a singer. Sense. She was not. Yeah. She bombed out of like movies and I guess was famous
later after this movie or later.
No. This before this movie, I believe.
Yeah. So they were like, we should get two weird musicians.
Yeah.
To be like, let's hang out and smoke reefer. Let's take off all of our clothes and all that stuff. Yeah.
So what were your walk away thoughts? Because going into, you said you weren't super into it, and you said you kind of like watched that. So now that it's over, what do you think?
It was fine. I was kind of bored by it. It seemed like not a lot. Like so like some of the stuff that we've gone through were already like my highlights of it or whatever.
Okay.
I did like the mom. So like when she goes to like the black neighborhood and does all that stuff.
Oh, Penny's mom freaking out.
I'm sorry, yes, Penny's mom freaking out and trying to like save her daughter. That's what leads into the John Waters straitjacket, all that other business. Just because it was so like I loved all of the black people always laughing at her. I thought like made it for me.
She's hysterical.
Exactly.
Like what's wrong with you, lady? What do you like?
No,
they're having a party,
and like
your racism is ridiculous.
I didn't really laugh at it except the part where she goes to like, oh good, there's a cop, and then and the cop and like as if it was a Twilight Zone episode, and she was like, oh, like he's like, ma'am, can I help you? And she's like, oh, and like runs away. Like that made me laugh. Where I was like, okay, damn, that's pretty good or whatever. But no, like the music is fine, but a lot of this is just music and dancing and cutting and there she's doing it and all that stuff.
Yeah, at times there can be a little bit too much like long hang on some of the dancing cuts, I think.
But that's like I think that's what's supposed to like propel you through. This is supposed to be like a teen at the hop like dance movie thing or whatever. I don't know. I don't know enough about this or what it's trying to parody and like subvert to even. I'm so just like. Dancing is not forbidden. You can dance if you want. Black people, white people, anybody.
Well, yes,
right?
Now.
I know, yeah.
This was a different time. The biggest walkaway from this for me was how colorful the sets were for a show that's black and white, and I wondered, I'm like, I guess all things were like that. Isn't that strange how much how much effort you would put into something, and how dumbed down you would see? Like picture like color choices, and I need the volleyball, and then you'd be like, oh, it's black and white. And only this set is designed for the people that are on the set to really enjoy. That's almost sad.
I wonder if people many years from now are going to say stuff like that. Or like, why was this all, so detailed? Or like, why was this set in like 3D if you were not going to film with a 3D camera? Like all those things, right?
Well, that would be how would you make this 2D? You'd have to stand in front of it?
No, I'm like making an analogy, right? I wonder because like the camera or like the video audio recording stuff can only get so much detail and like fidelity out of something like that, but they still had all like the normal stuff there or whatever, right?
No, the set was beautiful. It's like a Pee-wee's Playhouse of color, and then I'm like, oh, it really doesn't show on the TV.
No, yeah. There was a lot of good stuff with that, with like cutting between like the audio design and like the visual design, cutting from looking at the show to the show or vice versa.
Yeah,
really good stuff. I thought Deborah Harry did a really good job.
I liked everything with her until the exploding head thing. I was like, what the hell is that? Just kill her.
No, like part of me was like, oh, is it gonna go over the line now? Are we gonna go for it? Is she dead? And she's just like, and it's like kind of cartoony. They kind of drag them off like Boris and Natasha or something. It's a weird little like thing. Yeah. I think a lot of John Waters has stuff like that where someone's like, I'm going to poison the water supply or some weird thing out of nowhere where they're like, wait, you're crossing the line from this like fun thing where there are no consequences into like, oh, there's a race ride and we're like the cops are beating the black kid or something. And I'm like, holy crap.
When that older woman smashes her boyfriend's knees,
that made me laugh
too. I was like, "What the hell just happened?" And then later on, they say like what they dislocated his knees or whatever the word was, because like he just got bopped in the knees and he's crawling like an army man who lost his legs.
So like again, it's like I actually started Googling like I don't understand John Waters. I don't get John Waters. What is the point?
What came up through your
Nothing.
Google searching?
It's just John Waters interviews talking about stuff. Like no one else has this problem. I don't know because
what don't you get?
I'm thinking there must be something I'm missing to like think that this is like a big deal or like good. And like a lot of people seem to think that it's a big deal and good, and I'm just like, okay, like whatever.
I guess in order to really answer that, I need to know like what do you feel is missing? Where is it falling short for you?
it just feels like nothing happened in this movie. It just feels like there were some funny parts, but not enough for me to be like, that was an awesome comedy that I want to watch again. It just felt like a lot of musical vignettes and a lot of like over the top, like overwrought, on the nose, either literal or like figurative things against the segregation and the status quo and all these other things.
Well, I think you also have to think about the time that things come out and when they are like, and not that this was a million years ago.
I was going to say, this was the late 80s.
Late 80s.
So.
But he's talking about something from the 60s, like, and not that we don't have racism now, but him doing his period piece, if you think about these things being said in the period they were said in, I think that's why they're so on the nose, because...
Yeah.
But his little visual storytelling has always been like, this is naughty, or this is a little extreme, or this is whatever.
Yeah. He seems like he's trying to be edgy for the sake of being edgy, I guess. And like, I don't think I respond to that.
This is, though, more of his toned down things.
Yeah,
like,
this is like
all the things that he has that have
John
commercial
Waters,
values,
right? Yeah.
I think are never going to be those hard-hitting things. It's not Divine eating dog shit off the street.
I know, but that's like the worst of it to me. So like, okay, so this feels like it's that same thing, but you've stripped out all of the stuff that's so edgy that like that makes it interesting by itself. So there's just like nothing left for me. There's just dancing and like, don't do the dancing. We danced and it was good. Like it feels like a parody of like one of those things.
It is kind of a parody.
Right, exactly.
And it's considered a musical comedy, even though it's not really a musical in any way.
Well,
it's like a music-driven comedy, I might say, and maybe there's not a category for that. I would just label it a comedy.
I think that's what people would call it a musical for, is like a musical has set pieces that are songs and like drives it with the music.
I guess, but if there's never anyone actually singing or playing instruments, I personally wouldn't label it a musical.
I guess. I think it's more like the structure and like what the music means to what's happening or whatever.
But you can have a regular movie that just has a very good soundtrack that is driven, and it would have the same, I think, amount of power as this would.
Well, like, if all those songs were, like, dance numbers, where all the characters are, like, participating in the song or whatever, right?
I'm trying to think of a movie that is heavily involved in dance to like, be like, well, they don't call this in there, but I'm not big enough into the dance movies.
No.
Well,
like if you just take the analogy to like an action movie or something like that, right? The fights are like what's propelling, like the whole plot is just a like like Christmas light thing, just hanging together all these bright spots that are all these fights or something like that, and that's why it's an action movie, because it's like driven by all the fights and all the action and all that stuff.
I guess, but the same thing could be said for like Step Up or Bring It On or all those things. Like they're dance involved, but you wouldn't call them a.
I might call them musical comedies.
You might. You're a strange duck.
I don't know how funny they are. Yeah, like anything, like all those Bollywood movies. Anything where like.
But I don't know this for a fact, but I think I've seen a half of a Bollywood. Aren't all Bollywood movies literally singing and dancing?
They might be singing, but I don't really care if the people are singing and dancing or just dancing or like whatever. Right, that's not a big enough distinction
I guess.
for me.
I have to Google, I guess, what the definition of a musical is. To me, it's always been like where a part of this is presented with us not talking, but using our voices and singing.
Yeah. I think it's just a minor thing. This is like on the fringe thing where you might say like, well, because the characters aren't singing their thoughts, then we probably should classify it differently. But it's under the same like umbrella as like a music-driven story, something like that. So you don't have the songs. Like the songs are like the fights in like an action movie where you're like establishing who's who and like what's what and why is this happening, and then this song is like her victory over her, and this song is this thing happening here or whatever.
I would consider Empire Records more of a musical comedy than I would this, because at least there are singing and like there are cuts to things in that movie.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? They're like,
well, Empire Records feels like like that, like
but that
more
movie
of like a musical
would just be called a comedy.
Probably.
And that's where I'm like, where does this distinction rise? I need to know exactly, get to the root of this evil.
It might be it might be the one thing's called this, but is actually this other thing that's in between the two, and this thing just happens to be called the other one, but it's actually the thing that's in between the two, where you're going from thing to thing.
Hate it.
Oh, yeah.
So at the end of the day, would you recommend this movie?
I wouldn't, but I don't know what's wrong with me.
I thought it was a fine movie to have on in the background. It was something that I hadn't seen in probably 20-something years. So I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, I'll get that for $1, and and that's how we got to this.
Was your like coming back to it like, oh, it's just as great as I remember, or like, oh, everything's the same as I remember?
Did not remember nearly enough to really make that fair of an assessment, but okay. I think I, as a child, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. Like, and I guess I will say that same thing now. It was pretty good.
Oh, it was pretty good.
Certainly worth $1. I would check it out. Like if it was on hand on TV and you had nothing to do, I'd say give it a watch. I don't know if it's something I would search out for and find. I think there are better ways to spend your time, but it's something that is certainly talked about and known as a movie. And if you haven't seen it, you might want to see it for those reasons.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm missing something, and I feel like I should go look up like someone's analysis of the movie and like what's so good about it, and then I might either have something to like disagree with or have something to like, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about, or something like that. But it was sort of boring to me. I don't love this style of music either. Like I like it, it's okay, because everyone quote unquote likes this basic like older music that's very accessible and fine, but if I had been into this type of music, I feel like I'd be like, oh, yeah, that was fun. That was awesome. Or something like that.
It was like a period piece, and this is like, it's a fine, campy, fun time. It's certainly not this crazy special thing. And I don't even know how many things I have where like people said like, oh, that movie's epic to me, or, like ever. Yeah. I do think it is universally liked, and it was at least liked enough that it spawned a remake with famous actors.
I have the perception that people are super into this. They're super into John Waters, and this is like the one that you would show someone to kind of open the door to them or something like that.
I feel like John Waters is kind of a niche community. I don't think he's this huge.
Yeah, but like there are people that are super into it. I'm saying. Like,
oh yeah, well that can be said about people that like to eat roaches.
I know, but like more than that, like there's like factions amongst.
They're trying to make roach flour now. It's going to be pretty popular.
That will save the world, but that's a whole different story. I've heard ant meal too.
And grasshopper. All the bugs.
Now I'm starving.
I could eat. Yeah, so that's the thoughts. I guess it's a split decision. So you're a thumbs down on this one?
I don't know. I don't feel very passionately either way about it.
I don't have any enthusiastic thumbs up, but I will give it a thumbs up because I don't think it deserves the thumbs down. My rating system, this is probably like, right down the line. It's like a 5, We're trying to do the thing where everything starts at a 5 and then it either pushes you or like pulls you away from the 5. Yeah, it doesn't really, like at the best, it would be like the lowest, like a 5.9 or something. Like it's certainly better than mediocre because there's no egregious errors or whatever, and like I don't like it in concept alone. Like while some movies could achieve a flat line, while it's like, oh, I had bad audio production, the idea was pretty good. This one, like it was across the line, like it passed all portions of being a film. But I don't think it has replay value. I don't think I would watch it again. Maybe 20 years from now, I would check it out.
Every 20 years, you're committed to watching Hairspray. No, yeah, I'm super. Because if I start at a 5, I'm docking it because I actively do not enjoy the like method that it's trying to get its point across with. But then it fights back a little bit because some of the parts do work for me, some of the performances and some of the humor and all that stuff. So I'm sort of waffling like below a 5. I'm sort of in like the 4.7 area or something like that.
I never took it for like, and clearly there's like a message to be had there, but I never took it as like, this is my ulterior motive, this is a message. I just took it as like, that's just an element of the movie. While some movies are not big about what the message is, but you can like clearly like, well, the underlying tone is obviously that we have to fight for Native American rights. This movie, because it's on the nose so much, I never took it as a like, well, he's lobbying me to like for a belief. It was just like, no, it's at the time this movie is set in, and this is what's happening, and blah 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 blah. And yeah, so for that,
I don't feel like the movie's really set in like reality. I feel like it's.
I don't think any of his movies are.
It's like exactly. I don't feel like it's a like the only period being pieced here is like John Waters' like thoughts and emotions. He's just like I guess I would have wanted it to go more in like what like that's my issue. I think is I'm at a crossroads.
Okay.
And it's not a movie where like dancing is racism or like dancing fixes things. And isn't that there's a reason why that's good or bad or something about that or whatever, right? Or then over here like it's just a dumb thing where we have dancing and like we're minimizing the problems of like reality. And isn't that what all the stupid dancing and like culture and like mainstream stuff is doing or whatever, right? There seems to just be like, because like if he's not trying to tell me something about culture or like whatever, then like I have no reason to be here. Then there's nothing for me. So I'm trying to grasp to find some reason for this to exist.
Like I would take it as like
harsh.
you know, if you took any movie that's about World War II, but instead made it a space movie, and then like it would be like I wouldn't have to walk away with this thing like, oh God, we really do have to fight this oppression, and they can't do this to the Jews or what, and like. Yeah. But and this is like where it's like, well, of course, racism is bad and this and that. But I don't think the movie was trying to say like through dance we have the great equalizer, we can express the blah blah. I think it was just a simple backdrop for the movie, and that's an element.
Yeah, what's the point of the movie then?
Entertainment.
Oh man. Okay. He
didn't
knock it out of the park there.
There's too much like involved with everything having a meaning, and while certainly there is a meaning behind things, I think to approach everything searching for that meaning takes me out of the moment.
I mean, like, well, so like I don't like dancing and talking, and like gross stuff. So like I'm not into the movie. So John Waters though feels like he's trying to parody or hold up whatever to
he parodies like wholesomeness.
Yeah, like culture and mainstream wholesomeness, right? He's trying to say that like that's bad, or like that's not what it's all cracked up to be, right? Like the people in the family who are like the aristocratically like we are entitled to this victory because we are perfect and like we don't have blemishes, and if we get a blemish it's like a big deal or like whatever. Those are the people who are like violent and bad and like willing to do horrible stuff or like whatever. But the other people that you would think are like the gross and bad whatever people, those are like the good people that want to help everyone, even at a time when you're not supposed to be helping these people. They want to go above and be like I feel like this is like dripping with like a message and like a certain thing that it's trying to do.
Well, there's certainly, again, I'm not saying there's not a message, but I'm saying I did not go into this trying to find a message. I just took these characters for who they are, that like characters are good, characters are bad, these ones are bad, these ones are good, this is the movie. And I thought it was all right. You obviously did not think
no,
that.
No, I just didn't personally like enjoy it. I want to search more about John Waters and what's going on. I think some of the more extreme stuff might have more of an impact, or it might make more sense to me, or like whatever. Because people that I respect on the internet are into John Waters in general, and people I know in real life have said, "Oh, Hairspray is great" or something like that. Especially when the remake came out, everyone was very nostalgic for the old one and was like, "Stuff's great" or whatever. But I hadn't really, I thought, seen it myself until now, and I'm very much like, "That's it. This is what this is. This is what."
I like his characters. I like stripping down. Like if you just looked at things as their basic core, like Seaweed's mom just always rhyming. I'm like, that's an interesting character. Like I already said, Penny with her fucking like that tick of always having a fucking fireball in her mouth. I thought it was funny because you've known people like that, or like gum or whatever their bullshit tick is. There was a movie, House of the Devil, with some bitch who was always licking her fucking fingers, and I hated that. But like, there's all these different things, and. And like
something about the way you phrased it was like, oh no.
But you latch on the little things. I thought he had some interesting character details to his different different characters here, and I think that's where John Waters shines for me, with all these little idiosyncrasies and craziness about people and how they do things and what their things are.
There's certainly something there, definitely. That's part of my struggle. I'm trying to access it.
And you have the weird arc of Ricky Lake's character who goes from the biggest hair in the world to like little hair.
The hair arc, the deepest of whatever. We didn't talk about she gets sent, speaking of hair, to special ed for
just for her hair.
For her hair or whatever. And like that was another point where I laughed, where like the other the other 14 good kid actors they had, and then when the special ed kids come in there, they're all laughing and mocking them and all that stuff or whatever. Like that on the nosing or over the topping of like the way you might have felt as a kid in one or the other situation. I was like, okay, cool. Some stuff like that. I was
he's definitely a man that turns the knobs to the extremes, and that's where the humor comes in.
That's more what I was expecting, but I think it being about dancing is hurting me a lot. But it's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. We can
There's
have a
singing and
decision.
dancing and Crybaby, so we'll see that
good.
one next.
I don't hate dancing though. So like, speaking of music, so like with musicals or like whatever, I saw Sweeney Todd and I was like, that was pretty good. A little heavy on the singing though. I think it could have been less singing, and that would have been all right.
Felt that way about The Brave Little Toaster.
Yeah. Well, don't even dredge that up. Yeah. That's what happened though. So like the Brave Little Toaster, in like my memory, the singing like faded away, and I only like remembered he's gonna bite down, his cord, and like the darkness and the batteries and all that stuff, like the like stuff, right? So if I do that with Hairspray, I have nothing left. Everything fades away, and it's just gone.
I have an opposite.
It's sad. It's sad that I have no heart. I'm okay with that, though.
I don't think it's a hard thing. It's just like you didn't enjoy the movie, so you don't have a thing to go with. Like,
it's all good.
I'm trying to think of like a counter example of a situation where we've been in the opposite.
It does kind of whet my appetite for more John Waters-y stuff, because now I'm like, okay, I've actually had like a real case study, because I haven't revisited Serial Mom, because I'm assuming that's not going to hold up or like whatever.
Same thing. Like he has a great thing with color, and that's his like that Easter palette. I really enjoy.
I liked the filmmaking. There was nothing bad about the actual like filming or whatever it was. Even how when they go to like the poor neighborhood, it like feels more like a set. I don't know if that was intentional when they're going from like house to house looking for a place to go. I like that.
And what a weird thing though, as they're doing that, just like knocking on, let us in, let us in, let us in.
And they find
different time.
And the people who would actually let them in are super weird.
Oh,
right?
Well, of course. Yeah. How else would that work?
Yeah, no, I liked that scene was in there. So like the kids were not the weird ones. The kids were like the kids were like the like correct ones in like in between, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something there, and again, this makes me want to go figure out, because I don't think I've ever seen Pink Flamingos and a bunch of those other movies, and like Red Letter Media and people like that shit. So
yeah, they have
someday.
He has an interesting catalog. I'd recently picked up A Dirty Shame for.
I don't even know what that is.
That's it's another John Waters movie. Like quick synopsis is just like sex craze runs through a town.
Sure.
And that's kind of the thing.
Is he But I'm a Cheerleader or whatever that was called? That felt like John Waters.
Yes, similar feel. I don't believe that's him.
Yeah. The closest I have is actually watching Serial Mom and shit, what was the other one? Edward Scissorhands. I feel like had that whole thing of like the perfect family and then this like weird thing injected into it or whatever. The surreal and colory and the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that was our loose tangentized version of a talk about Hairspray, the 1988 version. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
If you want to support the show, head over to cannibalvideo.com, pick up some merch.
And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's something.
Whatever.
Fuck these motherfuckers.
Was the original show.